You guys, 10 more countries rehearsed today from the second semifinal of Eurovision 2016, and there were winners and losers. Are you ready to review them?
Let's do this!
That's right, 10 countries sang, some came out on top, some came out on bottom. Porig, who's on top?
Well, there's only one possible winner, and that's Australia. Like, no one else came close at all today. She just had everything. She had the vocals, she had the staging, she had the stage presence, she had the wow factor. Everything just looked so expensive, so polished. I can't fault it.
Yeah, we should actually say to those of you watching on YouTube, we are live inside the Euro Fan Cafe in beautiful Stockholm. So that ambient noise is not my mother or my father, as usual when we film at home. It is actually some Swedes here in this beautiful cafe. Thank you for watching. Oh yes, my number one is also Australia. It's the obvious winner. It's the first act today where I paused and said, OMG, that is a potential winner. Everyone else was a hot mess. It was just messy. People were climbing LED walls. People had naked wolves. It was too much. Whereas Dami had the technology, but it looked simple still. It's very difficult to have something that's expensive, but not off-putting. Something that's technical, but that you don't get lost in. And she somehow managed to do that. I mean, you can watch our other video. We're linking to it here, reviewing Dami's performance, but she's also my winner today.
Yeah, mine too. I mean, it's the only one that can be the winner today. I had goosebumps over my whole body. I mean, she was like crazy. She was so good. She can sing, we all know that, but she proved it today. And she looked awesome. And people that are saying that she's stiff, she isn't at all. At least not on this Eurovision stage. She is incredible. It looked really good. And imagine, this is only her first rehearsal. And it can go to Eurovision like straight away. Like next week, she will slay. This is amazing. Like Australia, best of today, absolutely.
It's almost like someone gave her a laxative because it was all just pouring out of her. The emotion, the voice, I loved it. And Porek, who is your second place for the day?
It's been a close call between Israel and Serbia, but I'm going to have to opt for Serbia, purely on the song, because I actually like the Serbian song. But her staging was just so... I don't know how to describe it. It was so appropriate, because anyone who saw the reveal video could see that she was trying to be Amy Winehouse while wearing clown makeup with clown hair and pulling all these faces, but she got rid of all that today, and she just had really, really strong staging. She had her backing singers, a group of women, and they were showing solidarity against domestic violence. Then the dancer doing interpretive dance to resemble the man and her shrugging him off. Her vocals were on point. The staging then was dark and red, and there was kind of the contrast between a beautiful flower, but it looked dangerous and thorny. And then at the end, there was kind of a Molotov moment, like from when Serbia last won, where she just steps out and all the women come behind her to support her. And it would have been a wow moment for me if we hadn't seen Australia later in the day.
You know, it's curious, to stage domestic violence in a pop music contest is quite daring, and I think it can go horribly wrong. But she managed to somehow tell the story of a woman being abused while also, I don't know, entertaining us. That sounds strange. But this wasn't as off-putting and dark as I had feared, nor was it mocking people in this difficult situation. In her presentation video many weeks ago, she was shaking a lot. And it almost seemed offensive, like she was making fun of people who had spasms. So she toned it down, and now she's just a woman who looks upset that her man is beating her. And I think you may have touched on this, but the staging conveys that so well. The lights come down like prison bars because she's fleeing from this guy. You know, the male dancer gets all up in her face, and he is dancing, and she bats him away. It's very much a song of empowerment. This is not my number 2, by the way. I'm just verbally masturbating while we're here. But it was so good. And the other thing, she stands on this flower, and it's this beautiful red flower, but it has a black lining on the inside, and it kind of conveys that complicated situation of domestic violence. She's clearly in love with this man, but he's very thorny. There's this dark side, and she has to decide, is staying with the beautiful petal worth dealing with the thorn? And as you see in this song, she says no.
To be honest, I didn't really look at the staging itself. I mean, Sanja, she is incredible. It's a good song, but she is an amazing singer, and I just can't believe how good she is, especially at her age, because she's still really young. And I think because of that, I was only like, oh my God, hear her voice, and look how good she's doing. So I saw the staging, but it was good, but I mean, her voice, that's what makes me love it, absolutely.
So is she your number 2?
No, but she's really close. She's my third of today. My second is surprisingly, it is Israel. And it's a surprise because at first I didn't like the song at all. I can't say it was horrible, but I didn't like it. Then the new version came out, and I was like, oh, this is pretty good. And now Hovi went on stage, and I don't know what they did, but it was so good. He was standing there in his black suit, and with all those glitters, it looked so amazing. It looks crazy. And then the stage itself, with all the black and all the stars, it's really made of stars. So that was so good. And then we had the acrobats, and they looked good too. Normally I don't like that, but this time it really suited the song. So it was amazing, and it's a really surprise for me. But he did great.
Yeah, there were a lot of stars on stage. He's
Mm-hmm.
Hovi star singing Maida stars. There's a Star of David on the Israeli flag.
Yeah.
But the star was Hovi himself. I thought this was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
The stars that he chose to use avoided cliche. So often at Eurovision, these starry backdrops all look the same. You're like, what universe is that? Oh, it's the same one she used in the last semifinal. But he had this very tasteful galaxy on the LED floor, and it moved. It kind of stirred emotion. It was fantastic. The acrobats are these two women, like they're crucified in this hula hoop, and they're rolling around. You worry they're going to roll off stage, and then at one point the hula hoop lights up blue. It's a little tacky.
Yes.
Oh.
No, the acrobats did their best to sabotage what was a perfect performance. Because during the first run through, both of them messed up completely, and they just stood there like fools until the end of the song. And then, as it went on, they were adding more and more little tricks to the performance. And then the hula hoop turned blue, and it was like a tacky Christmas tree decoration. They didn't work at all because the whole performance, it was so intricate and so simple with the lights, and then there was Hovi's face made of stars, and there was stars surrounding the whole place, and cameras zooming in and out, and then the pair. I don't want to call them idiots, but like it wouldn't be harsh because you said their legs should be chopped off. But they ruin a very good. They don't ruin it, but they detract from a very strong performance.
And also, I found their presentation very sexual. They were wearing these skin-tight blue bodysuits. You could see their next child popping out of their business down there. It took away from what was a very pared down and classy performance. But vocally, he was fantastic. I mean, it was just stellar.
Absolutely, yeah. And at first, I was like, I don't know if Israel will qualify. I think it's a borderline qualifier. But with this, I'm sure he will. And Israel deserves it. They always have great songs, and they only went to the final last year, and this time they deserve it again, and they will. I know they will.
So Hovi is not my number two. That was another fan wink. My number two is actually, I think you might be surprised, it's Switzerland, Rika. Now, you're going to say this was a hot mess, but I'm going to say this was a hot mess on ice. It was warm, but it was still cool. It was not off-putting. She begins this performance in the darkness. She's got on well, it's not a wig, it's her real hair. It's dyed blue and gray. It looks like a wig. And her bra is smoking. So in silhouette, you see woman with tits on fire. It is hilarious. And the camera pans out, and the floor is all blue, and it's like sperm or squiggling around. It's just very strange. She's wearing a kind of sports bra with a see-through dress. You can see her panty line. It is provocative from the first note until the last. In the middle of it, she does this pee-pee dance where she's just like this the whole time. And it shouldn't work, because all these things are ridiculous on their own. But when you put them together, it's so crazy and entertaining, and it's just Eurovision. And her song is very dirty pop, kind of that Sia sound. And so you need a dirty performance. If she had come out in a boring wedding dress like she did at the Swiss national final, this would not be my number two. But she came out, Rika did Rika, and that is why I respect this.
Yeah, it was one of those moments. I think there must be one every year at Eurovision where the whole press center has a sharp intake of breath before they break into giggles. Because it happened last year with Trencha when she came on screen with her first rehearsal dress and the veil and the weird dress. And it happened again when we saw Rika with her clown hair. And it's a shame because the clown hair takes away from her staging, which is actually really, really nice and really pretty because she's standing in front of a big waterfall is falling, and then the stage kind of represents nature, is what she was telling us. Yeah, it was nice, simple staging, and yeah, she is a hot mess. Hers the performance, and I can't see it qualify.
It is a hot mess. And about the staging, yeah, the staging is good. But then we're going to talk about Raika. The singing, it was, may I say, awful. It wasn't good at all. She improved, but it was really bad, and I was still bad. So that was bad. The hair, it looked ridiculous. I didn't like the clothes at all. I do like the staging, I do like the song. So I do like everything. But Raika isn't the right artist for this. I mean, she is really nice, and I hope that she will have a career after this and stuff. But
You hope or
this-
you expect?
hope for her. But this isn't a song for her, and I don't think that this will make the final with this. I mean, it is a hot mess, and with a voice like that, I mean, she had several months to improve it, and I'm glad she improved a little, but it's not enough. I mean, she was all over the place with it.
I'm still curious if all of her hair matches, the curtains and the drapes, because blue does not seem to be her natural color. In any event, you've all done your number 2, yeah?
Yeah.
Who is your biggest loser of the day?
I think for me, the loser is the person who I had the highest expectations for, but didn't meet those expectations. So they're not necessarily the worst performer of the day. And mine would be Donny Montel from Lithuania. He had a modern pop song, Swedish produced. It should have really worked, but it didn't. Like, he felt the stage seemed empty. He had all this craziness going on behind him. None of it gelled well with the performance. He had a tiny little trampoline that he jumped on for one moment. When we heard trampoline, we expected something like Greece 2014, not a little thing no bigger than that table. And it's the kind of song, it deserves a big choreography, a big dance segment. And there was nothing there. It was just empty, nothing happened. It was typical boy band without the boy band wow.
It's such a shame, too, because he has a Swedish-produced, Swedish-written song. It's a very good song. It's very radio-friendly, and it was one of the first I downloaded. And you want something to go with that, like appropriate staging. But clearly, Lithuania has not topped up their budget. They've just taken, the grade B level kind of finance here. There's nothing on the stage. It's just a light. There's like a wall of light. That's it.
Yeah.
And then he kind of sits there and goes like this. And, you're pretty, Donnie, but you're not pretty enough to fill that whole stage. Like, you need some backing dancers. The trampoline effect actually cheapens it. Because at the angle, you see him jump. It's like a gymboree. It's probably as big as this table, this trampoline. He's not going to get any height, no matter how you angle the camera. That was just painful. And also, I felt that this was all about his triceps. Like, he wasn't even looking at the camera. He was just showing off his arms, going like this the whole time. He really needs to, I don't know, get some dancers quick or just go home.
I don't think it was that bad. I actually enjoyed it. I think Donny is a good singer. He didn't give his all today, but he was good. And yeah, the trampoline, it wasn't good. But if I look at Greece in 2014, I mean, they also had a trampoline. It was way bigger, but then they slowed it down when that guy was jumping. And I think that Donny will do like something like that, not just a jump, but there will be something that makes it extra special. I'm just waiting for that. But apart from that, yeah, the dancing, I mean, he can dance. So it seems a little weird, but he can do that. And those biceps, I mean, they are good. Just show them.
Absolutely. Now, Denise, you clearly vote on music. Who is your biggest loser of the day?
We talked about her. It's Switzerland for me. Yeah, she was my loser. And the thing is, when the song came out in Switzerland, I was like, oh, this is a really good song. I like it. I really like the audio version and the CS sound it has. But then with the national final, I was already like, not really good singer. I'm curious what they will do. And today, I think she was the only one that I really didn't like. And I think last year was better for me. She did better. But this year, it's worse. Last year, they already had last place, so it will happen again this year.
Well, all right. Thank you for your optimism.
Yes.
My biggest loser is Latvia. When I know. When Just won Supernova, everyone was fan wanking. Ooh, there are boos in the audience. Hello, thank you for listening. When Just won in Supernova, I thought this was going to win Eurovision. I thought this sounds so Swedish, so Nordic, so dark, so radio friendly. And it was fantastic. But here, the stage is too big. The song is not good enough to fill that space, because this is not just a song contest. It is a entertainment spectacle. If it was a song contest, we'd listen on the radio, but we're not. And I'm sitting here watching him, and he's bobbing, and he's really sexy, but after a minute, it's like, okay, next. It doesn't develop. Visually, nothing arrests you. It's just meh.
It's basically the tiny Supernova staging amplified to the Eurovision stage, but it needs more. Supernova's filmed in a tiny TV studio in Latvia, and it works there, but when they had Aminata last year, they upped the ante. They haven't done that this year. They've just put big screens, lots of red, lots of blue. He stands there, and yeah, it's disappointing. But vocally, he was probably the best I've ever heard him.
I really loved that one. I mean, yeah, the vocals were amazing, and I don't think that he needs a big staging. The staging wasn't incredible, but it was good enough for me, and I really liked it at some point. He was turning around, and the camera was coming, well, to the audience instead of like the other side, and that looked really amazing. And the floor and the background, it was filled with like the silver sparkles. It looked great, so I don't think that there was something wrong with the staging. I don't know what would have been better. It was just really good, and especially with Hughes himself.
All right. Well, we have to talk about Belarus. He is neither our winner nor our loser, but he deserves a mention. For months, people have been talking about, will he be on stage naked with wolves? This was obviously a publicity ploy, but he kept saying, yes, I will be naked, rocking out with my cock out on that stage and some wolves nipping at my bits. And he was, but in LED form. They had used kneeling on stage with a wolf. He was staring into the wolf's eyes. It actually looked a little gross, like there was some bestiality going on. I was not feeling it. But then that disappears, and you see the real Yvonne, and he's singing rather well. And technologically, this was the best performance, I mean, potentially so far. It was executed really well. You see holograms of Yvonne playing the drums next to Yvonne. You see Yvonne disappear. There were wolves all over the place, and they looked classy. This isn't like, oh, what a cute wolf. It was like, just, I don't know, sinister. It was dark, edgy, inspiring. Yeah.
And just to clarify, it was Ivan, not used to, was naked with the wolf. And yeah, the staging was probably one of the strongest we'd seen. It was definitely the biggest surprise because everybody had such low expectations. Because he kept saying all this stuff about the nudity, and it was kind of viewed as a PR bluff. Because his staging in Belarus wasn't much to go by. It was a few LED wolves, and that was it. And he really delivered because he had the wolves, and they're definitely a lot better than Cyprus's wolves, which we saw yesterday. And the screen is bright. Ivan looks well. There's the vanishing act at one point. It just looks really, for Belarus, it just looks really sophisticated because last year Belarus really disappointed us because it just had Uzaria and Mamuna standing in a circle. But Belarus have obviously taken notes, being like, we need to do better, and they've done that. And I think they've moved from a definite non-qualifier to definitely in the borderline category, if not a definite.
I had really low expectations with this one, and I really thought that, okay, they are going to say other things about wolves and being naked because the staging will be really bad, and they just want to be, they're like, okay, we still exist, like that. But it was such a surprise. I'm still not a fan of the song itself. It's not bad, but it's not one of my favorites, and it won't be one of my favorites. But yeah, it was incredible what they did with the staging, and especially, like you said, for Belarus, they never do things like that. So it looked really good. Those wolves, well, in the beginning, when they were shown when he was naked, it looked really real for me. It wasn't like, oh, that's so fake. No, it looked real. It was like, oh, is he really naked? And I was like, oh, no, he isn't, because there he is. So that was a big surprise, but it was good. It was really good.
And I love how he's rocking this kind of pagan vibe. He has these white lines of paint down his face. He almost looks like Jesus with the long blonde hair, giving this a very spiritual quality. Ivan, you slay. In any event, we should also talk about Ireland's Nicky Byrne, the former member of Westlife. There was a lot of hype when he was announced as Ireland's contestant. The song came out, you two wet your pants, then you dried your pants, and I'm curious if they are wet yet again.
No. He was shown up by Ivan because he's decided to take this rock approach because the staging is basically like a rock concert, and Ivan did it that bit much better. He had panache, he had glamour. Nicky had none of that. Nicky just had lots of red and blue, and we've seen so much red and blue today. And his vocals, for once, were actually credible. And, like, they weren't spectacular by any means, but you couldn't really fault them. There was once, I think, where there was a noticeable moment where he was out of tune, but the rest of it was fine. But the staging, nothing exciting happens. The most exciting thing is he walks out to the catwalk and he's kind of on an isolated box and the sun appears. But besides from that, it doesn't really work. But then I think that it's the kind of song that's staged in such a way that it needs a live audience.
Yeah, the only thing I can remember really is at the end he stands on a platform and the LED floor transforms into a sun, playing on the theme of sunlight. I mean, it's not that inspiring. When he walks through that crowd, I think it's unfair because the audience was empty today. It's a rehearsal. I think with people there, he'll be feeding off their energy. He was in Westlife. He's performed for everybody, everywhere, millions of people. He needs that energy. The one thing I don't like, that I really don't like, is the Tai Chi. He kind of looks at the camera and stretches out, and he looks like one of those little old Chinese ladies in the park early in the morning. It just doesn't work. It's cheaply done, is what I'm trying to say. RTE haven't given him any bells and whistles, so it's this man on this vast stage, and I think he looks lonely.
I don't really agree with that. I think that we saw live performances from him before, and compared to those, I think he was really good today. And we had low expectations because of those vocals that he had in the different shows. But this time, he was on point. He did a great job. And I think it's really important if an artist really likes to be on stage. And he loves to be on stage. You can see it. He's smiling. He's really enjoying himself. And when he likes to be there, I like it too. It's the same thing that I'm having with Amir. He's also like, oh, I love to be here, so that's good. The staging itself, no, it isn't incredible, but it isn't bad at all. And when he's walking on that platform, like in the middle of the audience, it looks really cool, and you really want to see it with the audience. He was in a boy band, and I think he really knows how to handle all these people around him and screaming and singing, and it will look good.
And there are just a few other countries we haven't discussed. They are Poland and the former Yugoslavia. Yes, Poles in the house, hello. I thought Mikhail Spock was amazing. I know my colleagues do not. His voice is so rich and melodic. He's like the Conchita Wurst of the East. This androgyny really draws you in. You want to touch his hair, comb his hair, wash his hair. And also, when he looks at the camera, it's like Bambi, the deer. There's something so tender about him, those big eyes. It really draws you in. I wish they would cut the camera crops tighter because there's too much stage right now, and the staging's not so inspiring. There are a few lights, you've got some violinists and a pianist, but I think the focus should be on Mikhail because Mikhail, he's so magical. You're not.
Well, I can appreciate his voice, and today he sang, I wouldn't say incredible, but he sang very well, and I can't fault him on that front, but I just hate the song with a passion. And I don't think anything can win me over, especially if the staging is as lackluster as his staging was today. Because, like you said, the camera was out really far, so we could see everything that was going on. And even though it was full of people, he seemed very isolated. And there was violinists and there was a cellist, and they don't really fit in with his song because his song is more of a rock than a classical song. So I don't get why they were there. And then his costume, I think he's going to change his costume for the actual final. But today he was wearing like a shiny silver waistcoat with no top on underneath. And he kind of looked like he was auditioning for Jesus Christ Superstar.
Well, amen to that. Can you hum the riff, though?
No.
Oh. Hey, yes! It's the most memorable riff of the year. And this is going to see him through to the final. Denise.
You'll be surprised by what I'm going to say, because in the Wibi jury, I don't know my exact score, but it was something like a 2 or a 3 or something like that. I am blown away with him today. It was actually really good. The song, I'm still not a big fan of it, but what you just sang, it stuck in my head the whole day, and it was really good. And when he's singing, I mean, he's an incredible singer. He can do that, and it shows why he won the national final, because he's really good at it. And the staging, he seemed really comfortable. He liked being there, and I don't think that the other people who were on stage, that it looked weird or something. It was fine for me. So, yeah, I am surprised. So, Poland, my apologies, you did a great job with this, yeah.
My only concerns are that I don't like the lyrics on the LED. It says like your life, and it's like those aren't particularly inspiring, lyrics. My life, ooh hey. And then also like there's no color. They talk about the color of your life, but this isn't a very colorful performance. I feel like it needs a lot of fire or pyro towards the end to kind of.
Especially when he sings about there's no smoke without fire, and then there's no fire.
Yeah, it's a bit of a letdown. And finally, we have Calliope from the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia.
Yeah, the thing is, Calliope, I love her. She is really good. She's an incredible singer, so I love her. But the staging, there was nothing going on stage. It was just Calliope herself. Well, there were some people, there were some backings, and I don't even know if it was a piano or a drum or something like that. But it was all about Calliope. The good thing is that she is a great artist and she can deliver like anytime, and everyone will look at her and hear her voice and will think that it's good. But the staging, it needs a lot of work. It's just flat.
You know, I don't think it's flat. I think this is spiritual, like pagan. I'm talking Stonehenge, pre-Jesus kind of religious realness. There is something about when she says dona, 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 she's referring to Madonna, Virgin Mary, and her like inner sense of spirituality and her guidance, blah, blah, blah. You know, I know it sounds like donut, but she is really singing about something quite serious, and that comes through. She has that gravelly rocker voice, like she's been smoking like a six-pack before she came, and I love that. It's like sexy. And it fits with the song. There's this rocker edge to a spiritual song. And I'm sorry, I can't fault it.
There was aspects of the staging that I really liked. For instance, the flames and the stone frames, and they gave it the tribal feel, the pagan feel, like a ritualistic performance nearly. But then I don't get why the woman emphasizes that the song isn't donuts, donuts, donuts. And then she stands in the floor in the middle of a big ring with a hollow space for her to stand in. She's just calling for people to sing donuts.
It's delicious. In any event, we need to wrap this up because we have to go interview Ira Lasko in her hotel room. She's going to show us her dress. We cannot wait. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Sorry for being so loud. Yeah, so that's what we think. What do you think? You can let us know here on wiwibloggs.
Make sure to subscribe.
And hit the like button.
See you later. Bye! Oh my God, they're so nice. Tusen
Thanks.
tack.